morning. Hi, this is Arlene. I'm replacing Vienna Lui today as the host for Durian ASEAN. Here we have Pepper Lim as our co-guest host for our first segment of the day, which is on the newsmakers. So, before I start news on Southeast Asia, we would like to extend our condolence to the friends and family of Dr. Arlene Fernandez. She passed away yesterday at around 10 o'clock in the morning. We hope that the friends and family of Dr. Arlene Fernandez will stay strong throughout the day. Today. Okay, so, sorry. Today is my first day, so forgive me. Going back to our ASEAN news, the first news would be by Jakarta Globe, published on 30th of March. The headline is Philippine ship dodges China blockage to reach South China Sea outpost. So the story was about a Philippine civilian ship managed to evade a Chinese Coast Guard vessel and bring supplies to soldiers assigned in a Maroon Navy ship at the Angyungjin Shoal. The Chinese initially tried to block the Filipinos from sailing in the area, warning them about the consequences of their action. So in the news itself, what the Filipino government vessel made is a dash for shallow waters around the disputed reef in the South China Sea, evading two Chinese Coast Guard ships trying to block its path to deliver food, water, and fresh troops to a military outpost on the shoal. So, the cat and mouse encounter on Saturday, witnessed by Reuters and other media invited on board the Philippine ships, was a rare glimpse into the tensions play out routinely in waters that are one of the region's biggest flashpoints.
I wonder whether China really merits going after this little bit of reef outside the Philippines, because China is huge. Why would they want just another piece of rock somewhere in the ocean?
Well, we don't know either, but I think there's always a reason why different nation state want to claim, certain territories, and I think partly it has to do with their own security reasons.
What security? When would the Philippines want to attack China? I mean, who would be crazy enough to try and attack China? Right?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the game where we would play as children. We would draw a line in the sand and say, okay, this is my side, this is your side. Come across, see what happens. You cross the line and see. You remember? Okay, girls maybe don't play that game, but boys would, yeah. And if you ever cross the line, there will be a fight. Or, well, scenes that could lead to a fight. But that seems to be what China and the Philippines are doing. Is like, okay, this is my line. You see what happens when you cross it. And the civilian ships have managed to cross it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so much for the Chinese military navy.
Yeah, and the response by the Philippine captain of the Philippine vessel, Ferdinand Gatto, said that if we didn't change direction, if we didn't change course, then we would have collided with them. So, yeah, that's the story with today's first news on the Jakarta Globe. So, in that sense, the dispute over South China Sea has gotten worse, and the way China tries to claim the ownership unpleasing to the Philippines government at all. To me, these are the kind of sort of nation-state relations that would jeopardize, the relationship between people as well. And I think this is something that the Chinese government, they cannot just expand just because they are the superpower. They cannot just simply expand their military might or their security for their own security reason. But
didn't China also try to claim Taiwan at one point?
Yeah, they tried to claim many different islands. For example, the one called Spratly Island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's China for you. So move to the next news, which is Manila Bulletin. The headlines: Philippines formally submit to China Sea dispute to UN tribunal. So the Philippines officially submitted yesterday its voluminous memorandum before the Arbitral Tribunal of the United Nations Convention on the Law of Seas, UNCLOS, at The Hague in the Netherlands, challenging China's territorial claims over West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. So today, the Philippines submitted its memorial to the arbitrary tribunal that is hearing the case it brought against the People's Republic of China under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea in January 2013, said by Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert de Rosario said in a press briefing. And the news also and the context of the news is the dispute is caused by the natural resources that South China Sea have, and that's why China wanted to claim their ownership of the South China Sea. This is one of the key area that, unfortunately, Southeast Asia have to unite together because, Southeast Asia is rich and have abundance of natural resources, and countries like China and the US and all these great superpowers definitely want to put a hand on it.
Yeah, well, that sounds feasible. That sounds feasible. But I think that I agree with the way the Philippines are doing it. Is to bring it to a discourse, bring it to a judge, and lay your case out, by words, not by guns.
Yeah,
I think that is the first course of action that any person should take. Than to put two gunships out there or two warships out there saying that this is ours. I think that's almost like invasion.
And the fact that we still have the international organization, which is the UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, to be somehow the legitimate rule of law is important, not just to this case, but in terms of how countries interact with this between each other. That's how we can limit the powers of mighty powers like China.
Yeah, true. And Malaysia and Singapore also had a dispute over an island, and I remember that caused
the Pulau Batu Putih, right?
That caused tension between our two countries, and we're actually neighbors. We're made up of very similar ethnicities, and we have a very similar history, and yet we were fighting over a small island.
Yeah, I think that is the problem or limitation, I would say, of nation state, as in you don't see the context of society within that nation state. You only see it's like chess. Different chess.
Playing chess.
It's like playing chess. Yeah, each of the chess, what do you call that?
Pieces.
Chess pieces, or is how you see, as in each of the nation state is they are stripped away from their humanity and from how it is.
Yeah, I agree.
So moving on to the next one. On Manila Bulletin, Philippines eyes 6 more attacks plane. The Philippine military effort to boost its combat asset continues after signing deals for the purchase of 12 FA-15 jet fighters and 8 Bell 412 helicopters. I'm not sure you know.
I'm a guy.
The jet, all these
things.
helicopters. Yeah. So last Friday, the Department of National Defense (DND) announced that it is in the market for 6 close air support (CAS) aircraft, which is expected to augment augment the existing OV-10 Bronco attack plane being operated by the Philippine Air Force PAF. The beefing up of the country's combat assets comes at a time when the dispute with China over territories in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, had escalated after the Philippines sought the intervention of the United Nations Arbitral Tribunal in The Hague. Did you see the pattern here? In order for them to defend themselves, they are purchasing more jets. And
are you saying that there is a conspiracy between them and the military industrial complex? That people like Bell and the jet fighter makers, are pressuring governments to fight so that they can sell more arms? Is that what it is?
I don't want to go into conspiracy theories, but I can see that the trend of nation state is like this. Like, if a country is a threat to, let's say, my country, so the next thing I do, instead of looking for a more peaceful way of coexisting with each other, maybe through dialogue or through international intervention, instead I purchase more military equipments, whether it's self-defense or for offensive measure. I don't think military is the solution.
Yeah, true. In any case, buying these things doesn't mean that they'll be delivered like tomorrow. They'll probably be delivered a few years down the track, because as far as I know, military manufacturers cannot manufacture willy-nilly. Like, okay, I just want to make 1,000 helicopters. No, they actually have to have permission to make, let's say, 60 helicopters in the next year. And these 60 are sold to this country, and not to, people like Osama bin Laden and stuff. They're not allowed to do these sort of things. So by the time the Philippines gets delivery of their helicopters and their jet fighters, it might be too late, really.
That's true. But I guess it's the only way for Philippine government right now to the measures that they can think of to solve the issue. So hopefully it doesn't,
doesn't come to that. Huh?
It doesn't come to.
Yeah, it's quite close to home.
Yeah. So the next one by Jakarta Globe again is RI prepares military protocols for disaster relief. Republic of Indonesia prepares military protocol for disaster relief. So Indonesia was preparing a standard operating procedures, their SOP, draft for disaster relief activities carried out by the military that would be proposed to become the SOP for ASEAN militaries in carrying out disaster relief activities, a senior minister said on Saturday afternoon. So the coordinating political, legal and security minister Joko Suyanto said that SOP draft was near completion and was being field tested at the 2014 Multilateral Naval Exercise Commando (MNEK), currently underway in the waters of the Anambas Island, Batam and Natuna in Riau Islands province. In this case, I would agree having military for the purpose of disaster relief activities. What do you think, Pepper?
I suppose countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, who's not been at war for decades, except within ourselves. I suppose the military, having a military there, this could be used as a secondary vehicle for relief. We know that the military do have a lot of equipment that could be used for relief, and it's nice to know that the war machines in our country can also be used to save lives.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in MH370 incident where a lot of military gadgets and
were not working.
Were used actually.
Were used, yeah, but they were not working. Huh? Isn't that true that the military radar was not working? That they couldn't track.
Maybe it hasn't been used for a long while, I guess.
Yeah, that was quite a slap in the face for our military.
But I guess, I don't want to put a negative light on this. I think that it's good for ASEAN to have such a protocol both internally and multinationally.
Yes. I think that ASEAN countries, being developing countries, we should stand by to help one another, especially for humanitarian reasons. I'm not saying to go to war with us when we attack, let's say, Singapore. But if Singapore was in trouble, let's say a tsunami was to hit Singapore, or whatever, for humanitarian reasons, I think everybody should just pitch in and help, regardless of the cost.
Yeah, considering in Southeast Asia we are prone to quite a number of disasters. Besides tsunami, we have typhoon, we have volcanoes and all that.
Yeah.
So to have it for the objective of the haze part is another whole topic to talk about. Yeah, but I think improving humanitarian assistance and disaster relief is something that is a positive thing, one step ahead for ASEAN to focus on. So move on to the next one. Okay, this time is Vietnam Tribune. Interpol keep its eye on airports. The global police organization Interpol has begun to work with Southeast Asia countries in an effort to ensure there is no repeat in the incident which downed Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Interpol has been concerned about lapses in immigration checks and border security. Planned travelers are now likely to be asked to go through tighter security checks following revelation that the two passengers boarded the jet using stolen passport. While Interpol has database of loss of stolen passport, planes are sometimes being boarded without passenger traveling documents being screened against the list. Speaking about security check in airport, do you think this is something that Malaysians and also people from Southeast Asia should be boarded? In terms of ours.
Boarded with?
As in...
I think so, because remembering that, tighter checks means longer lines. We have to be at the airport 3 hours, 2 hours beforehand. Now I think it's going to be maybe 4 hours beforehand. So can you imagine, we're supposed to make travel easier and faster by plane, but the waiting time is sometimes longer than the plane, the flight itself.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Sometimes it is faster to go by, I'm speaking on my experience going to Singapore by land, and I felt that it is almost the same time frame, duration, time duration between taking a 6 hours bus ride to Singapore and taking a flight to Singapore because of the time waiting.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You were traveling recently, Arlene. Did you have to go through, what did you think of the security checks you had to go through at the airports?
So for the security checks, in Malaysia, I don't see much difference.
Ooh, in Malaysia, you didn't see much
difference. But maybe the security checks will be tighter towards foreigners compared to local citizens, I think.
Why? We have our own terrorists as well. But recently, the government brought up, well, not the government, but certain people in the country are bringing up the Mamali incident. So we do have our Ibrahim Libya. Right, our own terrorists. We do have.
Yeah.
When I was transiting in Dubai, for men, it's incredibly difficult. It's almost like we are half undressing in front of the security officer. Our bags are open, all water bottles are thrown away. I have to take off all of my belt. Well, I don't know, but I only have one belt. I have to take off my belt. I have to take off both my shoes, and then walk through the metal detector thing in my socks.
I see.
Yeah.
I never experienced that before, partly because I'm a female, more trusted, I guess. But I guess, to me, the question is, would you be willing to sacrifice your time for the sake of national security?
Isn't this what Captain America, the Winter Soldier, was talking about as well? Did you watch that movie?
Yeah, I just recently watched.
Wasn't it true that we are all forced into this corner in the name of security? So now we have to have cameras everywhere, security checks everywhere, tighter control, less freedom of speech. Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the movie itself definitely reflect, the reality we are living in. But at the same time as well, I personally feel that the government, I do not mind waiting for a longer line just for the sake of safety.
Yeah.
We never know, what life could be ahead, and sometimes they are just people who are, nutcase.
Yeah. With 7 billion people on Earth, you just cannot screen everyone, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the last piece of the news, which is the Irrawaddy news. The headline is 8 workers flee, girl killed as attacks continues in Sittwe. The Arakan state capital, Sittwe, was rocked by a second day of attacks on offices of international aid groups on Thursday as Arakanese Buddhists sought to chase out humanitarian organizations providing support for the Rohingya Muslim minority. Officials and residents said an Arakan girl was killed after she was injured by a police bullet that was fired when police tried to disperse angry crowds. Violence first erupted on Wednesday night when some Sittwe residents claimed that a foreign staff member of Malteser International had improperly handled a Buddhist flag when she removed it from a building that the organization rented. The claim quickly proved an excuse for the resident of Sittwe to attack all international and officers, while some mobs also went in search of the private residences of foreign staffer in order to try to break into the homes.
That is so typical, really.
Yeah.
Just any excuse will do. Yeah. But just to ask you, Arlene, do you know what is the problem with the Rohingyas? What is their crime?
The thing about the Rohingya issue is very complex, but it is also a way for the government, or at least the society there, to find an excuse, to have conflict with each other, which I found it very crazy and unthinkable.
Then the Rohingyas are minorities in Burma, right?
Yeah, they are the minorities. In fact, they are called the stateless people.
Because of their religion, isn't it?
When I was there in Myanmar, I'm not sure whether religion played a role in terms of why they are being prosecuted, but I'm definitely sure that they themselves being in between, being the community in between Bangladesh and Myanmar, sort of play a role in terms of why they are being seen as a society that is not part of the Myanmar state. And they are Muslim in Myanmar that is not part of the Rohingya communities. So, and other Muslims from other communities, they seem to be integrated well within the Myanmar region. So in that sense, I would say that it's a complex issue and religion is definitely just one part of it.
I think religion is just the excuse.
Yeah, it is definitely an excuse.
Because, like you said, other Muslims who are not Rohingyas are living peacefully in Myanmar. But why the Rohingyas?
Yeah.
It's really strange. I think last year or 2 years ago, I was at a protest organized by I can't remember his name now. Anyway, Adli Zakwan, if not mistaken, his name is a young lawyer. He organized a protest at noon in the hot sun. We all stood in solidarity with the Rohingya Muslims who are being persecuted. It's just crazy to know that Asians are doing these sort of things to one another. Why? Yeah. Why?
For the case of Rohingya, it is, you can see how fragile the race relation is with just like one incident of one Arakan girl being killed. Suddenly the whole community want to do like offensive assault to the whole community, including international workers, international aid workers, For me, this is something that is wrong within that society.
Yeah. And it kind of plays on the mob mentality. You know, when you can actually whip up the mob into a frenzy and get them to do things. Nazi Germany did this. The communists did this. It happened in May 13 in our country. It is happening now in Burma's Rohingya case. So, for me, I think that it's best to just call people for dialogue, so that we know what's going on. But right now, foreign media cannot get in. We cannot get proper information out. All we know is that the Rohingyas are being persecuted. If they've done something wrong, come on and say something so that everybody knows. That they are evil. Okay, if they are evil, tell us why. But right now, I think it's just inhumane to treat the Rohingyas like that.
Yeah, it is totally inhumane, and I think the international media has brought up a lot of their own concerns towards this issue as well. Seems like it's crazy how they could turn into such small conflict into something much bigger just because on the issue over a Buddhist flag.
I think the Buddhist flag is just definitely just an excuse, really.
And being a Buddhist majority country, isn't it? As much as I know about my knowledge, my very shallow knowledge of Buddhism, I know that Buddhism promotes peace and tolerance. So being a majority Buddhist country, I feel that they should sort of reflect the religion that they are.
That's true.
Adhering to.
How many of the 5 precepts have they been breaking? Ha ha ha.
So you know much more about Buddhism?
No, I just know that they have 5 precepts, which is do no evil, do not induce others to evil, etc. But I suppose when people are just whipped up in a frenzy, who cares? Who remembers these things?
Yeah, this is a case of having religion as part of the state religion, I would say. The same issue. The same situation can be said with Malaysia, although to a lesser extent. Yeah. So we will end our news commentary today, Newsmaker. I will continue next with our other guest hosts. We'll be speaking more about the women's and migrant workers issue in this country. You are listening to Durian ASEAN.